Hi, people. Welcome back to the channel. I'm delighted to be rejoined again by my great friend Ryan. And Ryan, as we know, people, passionate Arsenal fan, loves football, former player and manager, coach in his own right. And as I said, guys, a great friend of mine. So, Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me. It's been long awaited.
Oh, absolutely, man. It has. It really has. So, Ryan, let's kick things off with Arsenal. And looking at the end result of the season, we finished 5th in the Premier League. And just an initial reaction from me to that is it's probably slightly above average in terms of the initial expectations we had at the beginning of the season. But given how everything unraveled, in the sense that during that last 10 games, a few times it looked like we had the pole position in the race for fourth.
Yeah.
Just after the international break, I think we were level on points with Tottenham, with maybe even 2 games in hand. And then obviously with 3 games to go, we had a 4-point cushion, and it didn't quite go to plan. We lost to Tottenham, Newcastle, ended up finishing 5th. So what's your reaction to that result, that end position?
A lot of it, I feel, slightly came from we did better than expected in the games we wasn't expecting to do too well in. You know, so like I remember I was talking to a lot of like my friends around me, and we had, what was it? It was Chelsea, then it was either Chelsea, then Tottenham, or Tottenham, Chelsea, and United in the same sort of couple of like 4-week, 5 like bracket. I think it was even a smaller bracket than that actually. With obviously other teams around it. I think Wolves, and I feel like Chelsea, like I mean, I was shocked because I was like, we was either going to win against Chelsea or lose against United, or vice versa, and then we got a win out of both. So I feel like in those games we did so well that in that short amount of gap there wasn't enough rest time. So when it came to like the North London derby, there were so many things in that game that just went a bit askew. It went a bit wrong. Coming to that, like you said, the last bit of the season, I feel like we just burnt out. In all honesty, is like it's unfortunate because obviously, like everyone keeps saying, we didn't have not international, European matches. But everyone dug in deep, and I think fifth is better than what we had last year, so we can't really complain. We're still in a European competition. Obviously, we would have loved to have got 4th and be in the Champions League, but you have to take progressions for progression's sake. Sometimes you can't just expect. You know, we bought players that people didn't sort of match to us for what we was looking for. Like we spoke about last time, like Ramsdale, he's just been phenomenal on and off the pitch for us this year. We didn't really see it due to his history. But yeah, I feel like we've put ourselves in a very good position. I think if we can now stabilize 5th, like you now no longer think of Arsenal of getting anything less than 5th, then I'll be honest, it's not as bad as it seems, considering last year we finished, was it 8th? Or maybe it was 8th or 9th last year.
Yeah.
So like, you know, really, when you look at it, 5th is better than last year. If we finished 8th again, then you'll start to be very worried, wouldn't you? You know, you start to be thinking to yourself, where is the club going? Like, what are they planning? Like, what is their redemption? Because we deserve to be, you know, higher up. You know, so yeah, I think we've got to take some sort of praise from that, because we aren't now going to be, you know, the laughing stock of the fact that we're a big club that's not in Europe. You can't really be called a big club if you're not pushing for more trophies than the domestic ones, you know?
Absolutely, Ryan. I just want to pick up on something you said there about we didn't quite have the depth in our squad for those Tottenham games towards the end of the season. and a lot of the guys were tired. They were showing signs of fatigue at the end of the season. So do you think that is an indication of a mismanagement from Arteta, from the board, that we weren't fully equipped for the hardships and the struggle of the season? Or do you think it was just a necessary part of the process that Arteta was trying to instigate in January, which was to get rid of certain players who were maybe on a higher salary, and a result of that was the squad was always going to feel a bit more thin towards the end of the season? So do you think it was something that could have been prevented, this sense of running out of steam? Or do you think it was just always going to happen with Arteta's planning?
In all honesty, I like I said from the beginning, I'm a fan of Arteta's. I like what he's doing. I like his composure. You know, even though things have gone wrong or not to maybe the optimum plan, he still kept his calm. You know, he still said, "Listen, this is a process. This is a building scheme. We don't have the youngest. I think the youngest fielded team in the Premier League for no reason. You know, I don't think the end of the year could have been too much, prevented much more. I feel that the players that left, or the players that were got rid of over the last season and some, it needed to happen. You know, I feel like we don't have a complete strength in depth yet, but if you look at that as a whole, we don't have the strength in depth. We have sort of bare bones to a certain extent, but we still finish fifth. I will keep. I've said it to others, and I'll say it again. I'm going to keep bringing that back, because everyone's saying how, you know, Arsenal have a lack of bench, have a lack of the backup players and all this stuff, but we apparently have all of we apparently don't have all of that, but we still are in contention for European trophy. Whether we're going to win it or not, we're still in it, and you have to be in it to win it. Who knows? Again, the players that left, I feel it was a necessary evil. You know, do you honestly believe that we would have been able to really appreciate I don't know if he's done it yet, but appreciate the possible hunger of Nketiah if Aubameyang was still there? You know, would we have been able to really see Ødegaard at his full potential if he was always being swapped out, you know, with the other players? You know, Martinelli, again, if Aubameyang was always playing on the left wing, which we seem to prefer him, because I think he was better on the left wing, got top goal scorer from the left wing. Would we have seen the progression in Martinelli, who, bearing in mind, had almost his first injury-free season? You know, it's a necessary evil. Again, I'm not a fan of Xhaka, but he has had his best season in a red shirt by far, to the point where we was able to just about cope towards the end of the season, the last 10 or so games, or however many so games, without Partey. You know, which we didn't really think was quite possible, considering he had a really, really strong mid-season. So, yeah, we do have a lack of strength in depth. And, yeah, we are a team on the build, but the proof's in the pudding. You know, we are officially now back in Europe. We are active in the transfer market. You know, we are currently showing and looking for the solutions. We're not, you know, buying these players, even though I feel like we might need to get one or two marquee signings. It would be healthy, especially if we're looking to offload Pepe this season. But we might need one or two marquee signings just to spice it up a bit and not really fall behind our rivals. Because let's be honest, it looks like I think Man United are on the verge of signing Eriksen. Obviously, City signed the man goal cyborg himself in Haaland, and Alvarez, the other striker as well, who's nothing to shake a stick at. So we have to we do have to push the boat out a little bit. We do have to kind of look for a signing that kind of says we are still, a top team. We are still looking for the big players. We are still, looking for the players that people go, oh wow, yeah, like last season he had an amazing season. I can't wait to see what he does in an Arsenal shirt, But it's a, like I said, like you said, like you nailed it. It's a work in progress, like strength in depth means that you keep the players that want to be there. I think this is what we spoke about in the last show when we was together. Like, you have to have a minimum of 11 players that are following your manager's philosophy, that are committed to your manager. Otherwise, what's the point? Pogba for United, he lost love for United, and someone as big as him is now on the free agents list. It's these sort of things. If you want strength in depth, you have to keep these guys. And we've got young players now. So if we buy in like some a bit more mature, higher value players, we have got players that we've already sort of tried and tested for a whole season, and they've worked really hard. Saka apparently has gone up to his market value is now 100 million. Like, he's a young player. He's an English player. We know English players are on the inflation at the moment, but how nice does that feel? Like someone that came from the Hayland Academy, that really loves the club, that has shown that he's invested in the club, now like one of the big boys, like turning everyone's head. So yeah, I think when it comes to the end of last season, obviously we would have loved to have been able to say, you know what, we had so many injuries and make all these excuses. But like, when you really look at it, it was healthy. We had tired people. Injuries came from tires. It was hamstrings. It was niggles. It wasn't a ACL. It wasn't broken legs. It was niggles.
It was. And I do agree with you, Ryan, on a few things. So first of all, with Arteta, I think, unfortunately, the surgery that was needed within the squad in terms of releasing certain players and trusting the new incomings that came through, meant that we were always gonna run out of steam a little bit. But like you said, Nketiah coming to the fore, Saka having a full season, Martinelli, it was really positive. I think something that cost us more even than the injury of Partey in some ways was just a lack of cover at the back. I feel like when Tierney got injured, Tomiyasu was struggling with fitness, and also Ben White. I felt like we were always juggling the defense, which was a little bit of an issue. But I just also want to touch, Ryan, on what you were saying about the transfers that you want to see. So obviously, just reading and listening to what a lot of Arsenal fans have thought of this window so far, there seems to be a little bit of a sense of frustration that Tottenham have gotten ahead of us. They've signed Perisic. They're looking at Jed Spence. They've signed Basuma, who was also an Arsenal target. Whereas Arsenal have maybe gone with lesser known players. So we've signed Marquinhos from Sao Paulo, like you were saying before, a young left or right winger, similar to Martinelli, from what we hear. And also Vieira, a midfielder from Porto, who I hadn't really heard too much about myself. Do you look on these signings and think, great, even though they're not as well known, they're clearly in the profile of playing style that Arteta needs? Or do you think, man, we could have done with a Basuma and maybe a guy that's more familiar with the Premier League? So how do you see the signing side of it?
I mean, who wouldn't want to sign a name that you already know? Like, it's football. It's the world that we're living in at the moment. So it's almost like a population vote. If we signed Pogba because he's a free agent, no one's going to go, oh my God, it's Pogba. People are still going to buy his shirt. People are still going to do his hairstyles that he does every week. You know what I mean? Of course you want to buy a name that everybody knows. But if, as an Arsenal fan, we don't agree that we have also time and time again bought these players that no one knew about and turned them into someone that everybody knows about. You know, like, unfortunately, like I said, they've left, and because we haven't quite reached where we want to go. And yes, it's the same generational conversation, but you know, the Arsenal philosophy or the Arsenal way is that we don't always buy the big names. We don't always buy the players that, you know, are destroying the world stage right now. I mean, we did that 2 seasons ago with Pepe. You know, we signed this player that's destroying the French league for, you know, for 72 million or whatever, and we was just like, oh my god, yes, Arsenal are paying all this money, and I can't say we all, but I definitely got very, very excited. I was like, oh my god, yeah, like this guy's intense. But he didn't quite work with the Prem, unfortunately. I don't feel like he was really given enough time to work with the Prem. But we've done it time and time again. Like, again, unfortunately left the club, but you look at, say, Gnabry, or, you know, is it Malin that's at Dortmund? You know, like these players that we got in and everyone was like, well, we had from young and was like, well, who are these guys? And all of a sudden, these are players that are playing next to Haaland and playing next to these like, Gnabry has taken the world by storm. Like I think it was not last season, the season before last, he was on every Champions League highlight show. You know, he was just unstoppable. But yeah, Vieira and Marquinhos, I'll be honest, I've not really heard of them. I've looked on videos recently because there's been a lot online. Starting with Vieira, like you said, he's a centre midfielder. I always love a left footer as well. I love a left-footed midfielder. It just sort of gives a different dynamic to the match. But again, he's untested. So for me, he would be sort of like the strength in depth, the backup bench guy that comes on fresh legs and sort of has a chance to prove himself. You know, because I think Arteta's sort of saying, guys, you've got me to 5th, or you've got us to 5th this year. I'm not really wanting to just buy someone in and completely blow your prospect. You know, like he doesn't want, in a way that you would feel sort of disheartened. Imagine you've had such a huge season and then all of a sudden your manager just comes in and goes, yeah, so we've brought in this guy and he was 100 mil and now you have to sit on the bench and watch your team play every year. You've got to build a sort of relationship with your players. So, yeah, I mean, the one player this season that played with Vieira was Luis Diaz for Liverpool, and we've all seen how he's taken the Premier League by the scruff of the neck this year. He's been unbelievable. So, you know, let's fingers crossed we've got our centre midfielder version, and then you've got is it Marquinhos? And I'll be honest, the videos haven't really done him too much justice. He does look like a very average-ish player, again, in the Brazilian league as well. But again, Martinelli, you know, Neymar, all of these players in the Brazilian league, they had something, and then they've come into these bigger clubs with a bigger foundation, a bigger structure, and they've grown, and we just have to wait and see, I think. Those are the two ones that we sort of, it seems like a signed, sealed and delivered type of thing. So like there's a loads of other little transfer rumours as us Arsenal fans love this time of the year.
100%. And just on those big names that you mentioned you wanted to see, like 2 marquee signings, who would they be for you? In all honesty, I'm not 100% sure, because if you look at where we're weakest at the moment, I wouldn't really say
if we had our optimum 11, optimum first 11, excuse me, I wouldn't really say that there's too much weakness other than maybe obviously striking up front. And I mean, I'm not a Xhaka fan, so in midfield to back up Partey. But again, like, it's a strength and depth thing for me. Right back, Tomiyasu has been sensational, but he's human. You know, Tierney, amazing left back, but he's human. He seems to be picking up the same sort of niggles every couple of months. You know, Ben White and Gabriel have been like, it's almost like they were born twins. They play really well together. But again, we've seen when one isn't there, it's a bit of a stir up. You know, Rob Holding, are we keeping him? Is he going? Saliba, is he gonna fit into the team straight away? But the one thing that I always forget sometimes, that we have players coming back. You know, so again, Saliba, Reece Nelson, Torreira, and I think there's one more, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
But he might be sold on.
Maitland-Niles, yeah, Maitland-Niles as well. But sorry, back to your original question. I love it. Back to your original question. My marquee signings. I'd say I'd love to see us get Lautaro Martinez. I know he signed a new. I think he signed a new contract for Inter. I think he did. But that was one of the transfer rumors that really lit my eyes up a little bit, because I like his dynamic. I like the way he plays. He's young, he's hungry, you know, he wants his chance at a bigger stage, because the Italian league isn't as big as there's no league bigger than the Premier League for me. And I feel like that would have been a signing we probably would have got being in the Champions League. So that's the sort of difference, you know? And then again, I'm probably midfield. I mean, like a realistic signing, I probably would have liked to seen someone like maybe was it Hossimawar, the French midfielder. We've been linked with him for a good couple of years now. He doesn't seem to be dipping too much. He seems to be like playing at a decent level again, playing in a league that playing not at the standard of the Premier League as well. Those would be two signings for me that I probably would like a lot.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to take the game time away from Saka. I don't want to take the game time away from Martinelli. I don't want to take the game time what he's getting away from Emil Smith Rowe, because I think last year was probably his breakout season. I don't want to snuff Nketiah if he does decide to officially. I don't know if he's officially signed or not. I can't remember if he officially signed or not. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to take the light away from some of these young players, definitely.
My only thought on that, Ryan, is potentially to take the load off a guy like Saka, because obviously he's still a young player, 20 years old, and he has played a lot of football, and I'd really not like to see him get burnt out in any way. So that's my only concern. If, let's say, the high profile player, because we've been linked with Jesus, I think that would fit the bill, Ryan, personally, because I feel like Jesus is a very adaptable player, can play it anywhere across the front three, right side, left, or even through the middle. Yeah. So that could mean you could rotate him for Martinelli one week, maybe give Saka a rest another week.
Across the board,
maybe you could play the three in one other game with Jesus down the middle. So that was one signing I did look at and think, yeah, that might work. And he's worked with Arteta before at City. Would Jesus be someone you'd like to see at Arsenal?
I feel I would. And I feel like we're getting him at the age we should be kind of getting players from, say, our rivals. So just jumping off of him for a second, like when we bought Willian David Luiz and players like that. I feel like we should have signed them 2 seasons earlier. You know, they were getting to that point where they were more of a mentor type of role than a game-changing type of role. He's in his mid-20s, and he fits the philosophy. You know, when we press, he presses. He's one of the best pressers in the league at the moment, like in terms of getting onto the defenders and pressuring from the top. The one thing I do worry about from him, though, is if we play him in the strike/centre forward position, because he can score a goal. He's a very talented player. You know, from what we've seen, especially at the end of last year, he really looked like he's got another edge to him. But as a centre forward, I don't know. Surely because he's not proven as a centre forward for me personally. As a backup, 100%. You know, like, but I just haven't seen that. You know, he's played 30 games and got 25 goals. You know what I mean? I haven't seen that type of output from him. But he can score goals. You can't deny him that. You can't say that he can't. You know, you can see that he's very, very talented. So, I mean, this could be his break. This could be his moment where he gets to step into the limelight. Because, you know, who is going to outshine Aguero? Do you know who? And to be honest, if you want more game time, like we said earlier, what worse thing to happen than your team buying Haaland, the goal scorer in cyborg? You know, you're no one right now, other than maybe Mbappe himself, is going to take the front seat, or Benzema. You know, like, he's right now knocking on the door of being one of the, like, up and coming best strikers that we've seen. He's like a generational talent. So yeah, I do think Jesus would be a good signing. He's a very utilizable player. Like, he can, like you said, play across the top 3. He does defend, and he's Brazilian. So right now he ticks almost all of our boxes. But I would like to see a striker being bought. Yeah. Not like a utility player. I want to see someone that, like when we bought Aubameyang, we knew he was there to score goals. Lacazette, when we bought him, he was there to score goals. Even though it didn't quite work out towards the end, but that is what we bought them for.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of names that come to my mind from the Premier League, I'd be interested to hear if you think they would fit the bill. Ivan Toney and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Now, do you think either of those guys are good enough to be the number 9 at Arsenal, the starting number 9?
I'd say Calvert-Lewin edges it for me a little bit, just because he's got more experience in the Premier League. Not taking anything away from Ivan Toney, I think he's had, considering, an amazing season. You know, especially with all the controversy that he went through, or put himself through to a certain extent. But I feel, I'm not taking it away from him at all, but I would say Calvert-Lewin, because he's had to sort of get the end product, with a reasonably lackluster team. You know, like, it will be a lot harder to not score goals. Having Christian Eriksen behind you, you're going to get some sort of end product. You know, he's had an unreal season for me, but it's now like, I look at Ivan Toney, and if this season he's still putting up decent numbers, then I can step back and say, you know what, guys, I made a mistake. Like, he's actually, you know, a lot more prolific than I thought. But I feel like, for me, Calvert-Lewin, one, the whole English thing, you know, it boosts up our homegrown numbers, as well as, again, he's played. You know, the basis of our team now is nicely shifting to having there's a nice collection of English players in there, Ramsdale, Ben White, Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe. You know, there's a nice little homegrown thing building there. And he's done it. You know, he's been a dangerous striker. He's good in the air. He's an aerial threat. He's got quite a decent strike on him as well. So yeah, I think for me, Calvert-Lewin sort of edges it. If I wanted to sign him,
would you want him at Arsenal?
Again, if we did, I feel like I would want again, like, yeah. I mean, yeah. If we had him at Arsenal as well as Jesus, then yeah, you know, because then you sort of have them two battling it out for, well, the three of them really and truly battling it out for the first spot, because Nketiah showed a lot of inexperience, but he showed an amazing amount of progression. I've not been the biggest Nketiah fan, not because he hasn't got talent, but I felt like there was a lack of hunger. There was a lack of like drive. Like when you watch Saka, every match he's showing that he wants it. He wants the ball. Give me the ball. I want to run at these players. Where I just felt like Nketiah was jogging too much. Like he's already been an 100 mil plus striker. You know, he's been Aubameyang's his number two. Where I want to see the hunger. I want to see you telling Arteta, look, play me. This is why you need to play me. I know these guys are struggling. I want this game time. You know, so with the three of those guys, as like that would be nice, because then you have the strength in depth. You know, you have the two names in being, say, Calvert and Jesus sort of battling it out throughout the domestic, and then whoever's not really clicking as much or not really firing as much can then battle it out with Nketiah in terms of the cup competitions. You know, like we're gonna have the Europe now, so we need to know who's gonna be the front runner for Europe. Even in terms of goalkeepers, is Leno going? Is he staying? You know, like we need to sort of have a bit of a separation now to say, you are gonna be my out and out 11, my Premier League each week, and these guys are gonna be my cup or my rotation. These are my rotation guys that are gonna be my FA, my Carabao, my Europa, because we will burn out 10 times faster if we don't, I feel.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Ryan. And I like how you've articulated exactly what you would like to see in the forward line in terms of options and how you differentiate between the league and Europe and the different competitions. Something I do want to ask, Ryan, moving into the season ahead.
Yes.
In what areas do you think Arteta needs to improve? So if you were to do like a staff appraisal with Arteta, looking back at last season, how do you think Arteta can take some lessons from what maybe didn't go as well as it could have from last season and say, okay, Mikel, let's try and do X, Y, and Z a bit better?
That's a really hard one, because, like I said, I've quite liked the way he's managed this season.
Yeah.
Even in our losses, it's very rarely that I went to myself like, what is he doing? Do you know, like the last sort of the whole Unai Emery saga for me wasn't fun. I just felt like I was doing that a lot. The last maybe season or two of Wenger, I felt like I was doing a lot of like, why did you do that? Like, you're getting paid for this, and I can see that was a mistake. Like, what are you doing? Like, there was that type of feeling, but I don't really feel like I had that honestly too much or at all with Arteta. I think in terms of improving a little bit, maybe let's have a bit more faith in your non-starters, you know, because especially if Torreira does actually stay, which would be a shock, you need to sort of show him why he's staying. Because the whole reason why he left is because he just didn't feel settled. You know, like we've got a lot more South American players in the club now, so there's more that he can sort of maybe connect with. But Lukonga, you know, I didn't really see enough of him. And there's certain teams this year being who's it that got promoted? Is it not who got promoted this year?
So
But the players that come
Fulham, Nottingham Forest.
There you go. So for me, like that's from what we're looking at right now, as of this second, that's 6 games minimum that those guys should be 100% playing. You know, and then you've got the early stages of the FA Cup. You know, you've got the the middle to latter stages of the Carabao. You know, because the Arsenal team of old, there was your starting 11s, and then you had like your cup team, which was like your Aliadiers, you know what I mean, the players that you were in the club for a reason. These are the matches where you are so important. Like, not saying you can't make first 11, but these are the matches that are so important, vital to our season, because you're giving the first 11 the chance to rest, so we can battle out for the rest of the top 6. You know, but then also don't feel like you're just the number 2. This is your chance to sort of go, this is the reason why you should have been playing me in the first place. Like, I want to sort of like healthy competition with the rest of the guys. You know, I want to see Lukonga saying, I can play sort of like that box to box holding midfielder role. I'm gonna back up to say like Partey or Xhaka, but maybe I'm gonna show you that, you know, I can start a couple of games instead of Xhaka. Because let's be honest, right now we haven't got a midfielder that will take Partey's place, like, comfortably. No. So like Lukonga or like Torreira, like, I want to see these players play a bit more, and not just because other people got injured. You know, like Reece Nelson, for me, that was a bit of a weird loan for me, because again, like we saw coming towards the end of the season, we really needed that extra pair of legs in the wing, because Saka picked up a couple of little niggles from like little rough challenges that hurt a bit more because of how tired he was, you know, and you know, like things like that. In terms of striking, we've just been like, there wasn't really much options in terms of striking. Unfortunately, we had Nketiah, and he done very, very well. I'll take my hat off to him, because I've not been his fan, because Lacazette isn't a terrible striker. He just hasn't got the legs to get in them positions anymore. You know, but you can't deny his quality. So I think that's definitely one of the things I would say that could do with a bit of improvement, like having a bit more faith in the players that aren't your starting 11. Because tactical wise, you know, there's times where even Tottenham fans have gone to me like, bloody hell, he's pulled that out of the bag. He really has. Like, you know, we go and we've been gritty this year. We've fought for those horrible 2-1s or those 1-0 wins where you think to yourself, it's on a knife edge. But then he's decided, you know what, I'm going to take off Ødegaard, which is one of our best players this season, and put in Rob Holding. And then skinhead Rob Holding comes on and just wins every header. It's just, you know what I mean? It's this type of, it's that type of energy that I love. That. Don't be afraid to sort of really be gritty, because that's what the teams are doing. That's winning now.
100%, Ryan. And, you know, I completely agree. I'm also a big fan of Arteta. I really like him as a manager, Ryan. But I do think that is an area he can look at, because one thing I've noticed, when Arteta's had his prime 11 available and fit, Arsenal have looked like they could beat anyone. I think that was shown in the first half of the Man City game on New Year's Day at home, where we just were better than City for that 45 minutes. And I know that the wheels came off and there were a couple of moments of ill discipline in the second half that cost us. But that showed to me, that's exhibit A Arteta. If you're giving like a job application kind of example of your best work, Arteta had that in that 45 minutes against City. But my concern is when a couple of key elements of the mix come out, let's say a Thomas Partey and a Kieran Tierney, as we saw at the end of the season, a Tomiyasu, then the backups or even the sense of the system as a whole, it doesn't function quite as well. And part of me wonders, is that because the players are very specifically chosen to fit the system Arteta wants to play?
Yeah.
But then, like you said, there needs to be a way of integrating guys like Lokonga, Tavares into that system to ensure that when we do get injuries, they can step in and play not as well, but at least the drop-off's not going to be as noticeable.
Yeah.
On that point, Ryan, I believe that maybe even Europa League might help Arteta, because a lot of the rhetoric and the ideas this season has been on the fact that we haven't had Europe, and that's been seen as this big advantage because we've had more rest time. But I also look on it and think, if you flip it, the Europa League benefits us from the point of view of it gives more minutes to the likes of Lokonga, Tavares,
and the youth players.
And the youth players.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe the Europa League will help Arteta, and that can be something moving forward.
Yeah, because if you look at it as well, like sometimes I don't think Pepe is a bad player. I don't, and I will honestly, and even Tavares, I know he's had a very controversial season, but I don't think these guys are bad players, not one bit. Like, and expanding on that a little bit, Pepe, when he came up, I can't remember what game it was now off the top of my head, but one of the last games came up, I think it was Wolves. Like, he just looked like someone that hadn't been in a match for a little while. He didn't look like someone that didn't deserve to be there. He didn't look like somebody that, you know, like, well, who is he? And you have to flick through the Arsenal archives to remember who he was. It wasn't that. It was a case of he just he didn't have chemistry on the pitch. He didn't sort of remember where he's got to be because he hasn't got the match practice. Same as Tavares, like, and it might be a controversial moment, and I will stick by it if anybody chooses to ask me. But I think Nuno Tavares has the potential to be one of the best left backs for around. Surely because one of the best left backs outside of João Cancelo.
Yeah.
Because when you yes, to his performances so far have been yet to has been sort of desirable. When you look at him and you look at how he started when everybody wasn't quite sure what he was like, can use both feet, as he showed when he scored a goal against United, I think it was. Yeah. He's quick. He's very quick. He's decent in the air. He's skillful. And he's not afraid to throw his body about and get forward and get back. Now, and he can play on both sides of the fullbacks. He can play left back or he can play right back. Now, the only other fullback that I know that can do that is João Cancelo. But he's had the time to be that, where Tavares, when Tierney's fit, it's Tierney up front. But there was a moment where everyone was like, oh my God, who do we play? Do we play Tavares or do we play Tierney? You know, so you can't knock him. He's still the same person, but Tierney came into form and you couldn't take him off the pitch. Yeah. You know, you can't then put him at right back because Tomiyasu was like, where the hell did this guy come from? You know, so you can't knock him. Same as Cedric. Cedric can play both sides, but Tavares is younger. He's fitter. He wants it. You know, so 100%. I honestly think you've nailed it. Like, everyone thinks that the Europa League or not having any European matches was this, like, how did you not get top four? But then
exactly, yeah.
When you look at it, the players that we have, say, however many days gap between our matches when the European matches are on, that's time where players are only training. They're not getting match fitness. They're not doing anything other than like really and truly working hard and having a laugh on the training pitch. So with those in-between gaps, especially one that's not as intense as the Champions League, these players do get match fitness while the other ones are resting. These players get exposure. They get like match fitness where they can memorize where they're supposed to be on the pitch. Yeah. They can build chemistry and links with other players on the pitch, so they know, okay, Erdegaard's playing today. Say if it was Pepe and he's spent a little bit of time on the bench, but he's been coming on and off the bench, and he knows Erdegaard, I just need to run. He will find that pass. He will find that gap. He will play a 1-2. I've seen what he does with Saka, so I've just got to sort of get myself match fit, and like, because match fitness isn't about your cardio. Match fitness is up here as well. Yes. Do you know what I mean? It's confidence. It's bravery. So that's what I saw from Pepe and Tavares coming towards the end of the season. And I think it would be a shame to see, because I think Tavares is linked with a loan out and Pepe's linked with a move. I think it is a bit of a shame because, like I said, I think it's just match sharpness. Because, like, what do you? That's the bit of football. The big teams like Man City, they've got strength in depth. So they're players that are their B team, like, your Zinchenko's and stuff. The reason why he's able to shine so well is because he's getting a lot of in-between game times. He's coming off of the bench. There's a cog moving. Every time he's on the pitch, he's like, okay, so I remember what I've got to do because I was only on a couple of weeks ago, where Pepe, we hadn't seen him for months. And then all of a sudden, he came on. Arteta gave him a pat on the badge, which you should do as a good manager. But it's like you're a new signing again. You've got to build your confidence. You've got to get back into this team chemistry, and it's difficult. It is real difficult. As well as having thousands of people saying, "Boo, get him off." Do you know what I mean? It's mental.
But Ryan, honestly, man, I really agree with that, because when I first saw Tavares, just starting on Tavares, I could not believe this player. Like, his energy up and down the left flank was just incredible. Like, I remember a couple of games early on. One was against Leicester away, and the other one was Newcastle at home, where he was just bombing back and forth, and he was like a very sort of raw, loose sort of talent that you need to harness and just say, okay, Nuno, just do your thing, and we'll be fine. And
we'll pick up on little things as you go,
exactly.
Yeah.
And man, I was so impressed with that from Tavares. I think, as you say, it felt with him and Pepe a little bit like, because they've been left on the sidelines for quite a long time, be it because we didn't have the matches to play them in, because we got knocked out of the FA Cup early. There are all sorts of reasons why. But when they did come in towards the end of the season, at times, they just looked half a step like behind. But I think if they do have those games, I'm with you, because even with Pepe, when he did come on against Wolves, he won us that match, like back in February, came off the bench, assisted and scored. So maybe there is a bit. And on this point, Ryan, about Arteta and Arsenal, because I feel like the fan base generally, they seem quite impatient about things like, we need to sign big players, we need to do X, Y, and Z fast. Like, there seems to be this urgency to get it done quickly. But the way, what I'm hearing from you, and it's kind of reinforcing some beliefs that I have, is this idea that being patient and not being responsive to like the hype and the trends that are going around the fan base might be a wise way to go, because we might be just consolidating the squad we've got and being selective, like we were last summer, on who we want to bring in, not just going for the big name, yes, we might need one or two more established players, but not to the detriment of the philosophy Arteta is trying to build.
Yeah.
So I think maybe just sitting on the squad we've got and cherry picking a few additions isn't a bad way to go. Something else, Ryan, I want to talk to you about, because you mentioned it earlier, is Arteta's composure. And for me, this is a real positive about him. How he fronts up to the media and his body language. Like, I don't know if you've picked up on this, but I see a very confident person who has belief in what he's doing.
Yeah.
And also a guy that doesn't get easily knocked off his stride. So I rarely look at him in a press conference and think, man, he's rattled, or he doesn't seem to know what he's doing, or he's winging it.
Yeah.
I see a guy who's actually pretty self-assured and who's like, no, I believe in what we're doing. And I don't think it's a coincidence. You know how Antonio Conte was trying to have these little digs at Arteta during the season? So he said things like, Arteta can't complain about the schedule. So I remember Arteta was unhappy that the Chelsea and United games were like only 3 days apart. And Conte said, Arteta can't complain because he got the North London derby postponed. And I don't think Conte makes that comment if he doesn't see Arteta as a threat. So I think he looks at Arteta and he thinks, yeah, this guy's for real.
Yeah. And I think I would love to get your opinion on this as well, because like I look at the managerial battles, and for me, the number one guy is Klopp. He never seems like he's even had a bead of sweat, let alone anything else. You know, he seems so chilled. And I think, Arteta's right up there. Like, and it comes down to like what we was talking about in terms of the transfers as well. When you rush things, which some fans are sort of asking for, you miss things. You know, like the reasons why we're not one of the clubs in millions and millions and millions of debt. The reason why our stadium is paying our bills, you know, like these little things only happen because someone hasn't gone, right, City bought Haaland, right, we're going to have to buy Mbappe and his little brother. Like, we're going to do it right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, because we're not panicking, because we're sort of thinking, okay, so we've got now a defensive partnership of Ben White and Gabriel, and then we know that Rob Holding fits right in terms of as a 3, or he can swap out and does okay, except for when he played Tottenham. And like, you know, we like when you look at these things, you can't rush it, because certain clubs that have rushed it, i.e., I mean, I know it's hard to compete. You shouldn't really compare us, but when you look at your Barcelonas, your Real Madrids, your Uniteds, your Cities, your Chelseas, these clubs are in just ridiculous debt because they're going, oh no, Barca just like gave Messi a new contract like years ago. We have to. It doesn't quite work like that. And I think, when it comes to Arteta and his composure, he really does slot in, because like what we said in our last conversation, he's a manager that loves his club. So I reckon whether he's our manager or we do the stupid thing and get rid of him, he's still going to love this club. You know, Edu, ex-player, both of them ex-players love the club. I mean, for me, sometimes Edu, I want to see a bit more in terms of just looking in Brazil and stuff. I want to see a bit more, but at the end of the day, you stick to what you're strong at, and that's what he's strong at. If this new signing, Marquinhos, turns out to be a Luis Diaz or a young Neymar or something, we're not going to go, oh well, he only looks in Brazil. We're going to be like, bloody hell, he's the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Give him another contract, make him the director. You know, we're gonna praise him. So, in terms of composure, I think it's so important, because the last thing that you want is, like, it's hard enough to watch your players lose their heads and they can't and they lose their composure with each other. You don't now need your manager to, because once your manager loses his composure, that's it. You know, how can you tell someone to calm down if you're screaming at the top of your lungs? Yeah. You know, like, it doesn't quite work. So I think Arteta really, his composure and his level of awareness of what's coming is important. He knew getting rid of Aubameyang or accepting the fact that Aubameyang was leaving was going to have 50-50 uproar. Everyone's going to be like, what is he doing? He's the only guy that's scoring us goals. You know, he's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. We're sending him to Barca. We're making, there was going to be that side of things. And then there was going to be, we had somebody that was paying, I think it was around about 350,000 a week, that didn't look like he wanted to be there. And this is our captain. You know, like, you can't then say to everybody, listen, I'm really concentrating, I'm really trying to make sure that, you know, we're looking attractive, playing brilliant football and doing this and doing that. But if you have anything, go to your captain, because that's what you're supposed to do. You know, it goes in stages. Go to your captain comes to me. If it's something that bad, I go to the board. No one just goes from club to board. Do you know, it doesn't work. There's a process. So if you then know the middleman, which is your captain, is flying to Spain every weekend and getting tattoos and, you know, buying Lamborghinis the same color as a rainbow and all of these things, but not at training dealing with certain issues that are going on in the club, you know, you're stretched. You're stretched out. There's a reason why there's so many different positions, physios and this and that, and negotiators and loan people and youth academy. Like, there's a reason why there's all of these things, so that you don't feel overwhelmed. And if you're something in that cog isn't really doing what it's supposed to, you have to change it. You know, and that's what the whole Aubameyang thing was for me, and that's the whole process of Arteta. Because you look at Guendouzi, I loved Guendouzi. From the afro to the football, I loved it. You know, he sort of was what everyone wanted David Luiz to be. He wasn't a centre back in my mind. He was a CDM. He was unbelievable 10 years ago. Like, so like, yeah. And then his attitude, you know, and everyone saw it after that Brighton game. Because before that, we was like, this young talent, he's sick, you know, he's amazing. He's only 19 and he's, you know, everyone was like future captain and this, and there was all of this. And then that Brighton game happened and everybody was like, whoa, where did that attitude come from? And then all of a sudden, you know, Arteta was like, yeah, I'm going to speak to him. And then we heard there was arguments in training and all of these things this picture started to form. And you kind of go, oh, okay. So he's not invested in Arteta's plan. He sort of has his own plan. And as a team that's on the build, we can't afford that. So as great as you are, you have to go. Like, and everyone was like, again, what are you doing? But now look, we're fifth. That season, we wasn't quite getting fifth. You know, like, things are, that it is a process. And I think
evolving, right? It is 100% evolving.
It's a slow build. It's a slow burner, but you can't, sometimes you have to look at the small progresses. You have to, otherwise you're just going to be that fan that's just like, you know, we didn't win again, or, you know, who's this guy that we're signing? Yeah,
100% right. And I think with Arteta, there's a reason and a justification for everything he's doing. He's actually, he's not just acting on a whim or going with the spontaneous decision. He's actually thinking through what's best for Arsenal. And I think that's super important. I think with regards to next season as well, I definitely think there's cause for optimism, because having had the experience of last year, it's like everyone's got one more year of experience under their belt, including the manager himself and the players. I feel like there's definite room for encouragement in there. And I think top four could definitely be a possibility if Arsenal can maybe add one or two more in the areas we need. What would you say to next season, Ray?
I would 100% agree. Like you said, with bringing in one or two more, and I want to make sure it's known that I don't mean, again, these marquee signings. I don't like I said, it'll be amazing to sign, I don't know, like Dybala's a free agent. It'll be amazing to have Dybala. Dan Axel Zagadou from Dortmund, he's a free agent. It'll be amazing to have him as a defensive backup. You know, like all of these players, it would be amazing to have them. But when you want strength in depth, sometimes you can't afford to like buy all these big players, because then you're taking away some sort of limelight from the players that have done you so well this season. You know, you're taking away the love for, you know, this young guy that's come from the grassroots to the first 11. Like, it's a case of like even Emil Smith Rowe. You know, this guy is born and bred Arsenal. Now, you buy some of these players that sort of shuffles him down the pecking order a bit. All of a sudden, he goes out on loan all the time again, and you lose his heart. He starts going, "Oh, I put in all of that hard work, and I haven't even really touched the main stage." You know, so yeah, I do agree. It is. I don't envy Arteta at all. He has got a very tough time on his hands. Not because it's like you've taken this club that was scratching the bottom of the barrel. We would never scratch in the bottom of the barrel. I refuse to let anybody tell me that we were. We were just at our lowest. But again, I think you look at, we said it's a slow process. Arsenal as a club did the right thing. You know, we had our commander-in-chief in Wenger. Things didn't really work too well. We tried to do all these signings and stuff. It didn't really work. We got rid of Wenger. We then got, I think it was Unai. Was it Unai or was it Lampard first? It was Unai. Yeah. For me, that was a train crash. There was very rarely times of Unai's reign that I enjoyed. I'll be honest. That came, especially the Europa League final. That wound till this day. That boils my blood. There was so many things wrong with that game, but we're passing him. He's gone. And then we had Ljungberg, and I love Ljungberg. I do. From when he was a player, I love Ljungberg. But then I looked at the Ljungberg thing, and I thought, I'll see what Arsenal's doing here. Instead of getting all of these people that haven't got any real history with Arsenal, let's get in someone as an interim manager that has a connection with the club further than just being paid as a manager or paid as an interim manager. Again, it was difficult for him because I feel like he didn't have the practice of the separation between player and coach to being a complete manager. Like that is your role now. I feel like he didn't really have that transitional period where that whole time Arteta was learning from one of the greatest managers of our generation as a number two, and then he got his chance. And again, Arsenal went from stranger to someone that's got love for the club, that's someone that loves the club. So we started our slow process from there. And then Arteta started his process, you know, okay, I've got these players. Ozil, I've played with you. I love you to death, but you don't fit the bill. You don't want to leave. Okay, you will stay here and warm up that seat until your contract runs out. You will not touch the pitch. And everyone was like, well, why not play him? Because he does not fit your philosophy. Stick to it. Yeah, Aubameyang, Socrates, Mustafi, all of these players, again, you do not fit the bill, but some of you, I've not got a choice. I have to play you. I haven't got anybody else. Once they went out, now look what's happening. We're reaching top 5 again. You know, next season, we can confidently say, I would love to see us, it's possible to get top 4. You know, we can look at players like possibly getting Gnabry back and having Jesus Do you know what I mean? Like having Jesus and being back in Champions League, and all of these names are now like, these things are actually possible. But that's because, you know, the players that are here now are following Arteta. You know, and it really is a process. And it's, I think sometimes because people get trapped up in the season that's in front of them that's happening, they forget about the whole like journey that's been happening. You know what I mean?
It's been a massive job Arteta's undertaken, but you're completely right. Like we don't envy his job because he's had so much of an overhaul to do in terms of the attitude, the mentality, the professionalism. And like you say, it's slow progress, but we are seeing the fruits of this change he's trying to implement. And I don't know about you, but I have picked up that players actually do want to come to Arsenal. So I even heard that Bissouma sort of retweeted something, or he posted something on his Instagram story where someone sort of was suggesting come to Arsenal, and he sort of reposted it. And I've seen similar comments from Gnabry where he said, look, I'd love to come back to Arsenal. And
yeah,
I don't think these sorts of noises would happen if they didn't see some kind of structure in place from Arteta. So I feel like
who was it?
The outside, there's a little bit of positivity.
Who was it? I can't remember. It might have been, was it Gnabry? I can't remember who it was, but it was one of those type of marquee signings. But it was in the sort of direction of Arsenal. It was saying sometimes you don't sign for the club because of the players and the manager. No, sometimes you don't sign to the club because of the players. Sometimes you sign to the club because of the structure and the philosophy that they have in place. And it's like this. I mean, if I have so many different insights into how football is going right now that we don't have the time for it. But when you really look at it now, the clubs and the football is sort of becoming more to do with the players. You know, like it's becoming like an NBA type of thing where people actually have the choice to run out their contract, and like they can then play where they want to play. You know, like yes, City can pay whatever they want. So buying Haaland, you know, they could have done what they wanted anyway. But he now has the sort of power to not sign a new contract for Dortmund and play for City if he wanted to on a free contract, because, you know, my dad played here, and players are now realizing that they have that type of strength, you know, like Dybala and Christian Eriksen and Pogba. These are all people on the free agents list right now. You know, not like if Arsenal now went to all of them and said, listen, that's the contract I want to give you, they can actually say, you know what, no, I want to play for them. Like the players are sort of taking back the strength of their playing times. But I think it's really important that it's the structure. No matter how good or how expensive or how much money teams are able to pay for a player, if you're not then going to help them get better for a start and become better, or if the club is on like the verge of bankruptcy, what's the point? You just, you know, like what's that going to do? It's like everyone's telling me about Newcastle at the moment. I have a lot of people, I've got Newcastle fans that I never even knew were Newcastle fans talking to me right now about how, you know, they've got all this money and they're going to go for these players, and we're going to go for Neymar, we're going to steal Haaland off of Man City. And I was like, dude, you're not a terrible team, but you're still Newcastle. They need to finish a comfortable mid-table next season, and then the season after that be in Europa League or the Conference League, and say like, yeah, like this is our progression. And then people will be like, well, you know what? They've now got the money. They're the richest club in the world. Why not? You know, but while you're still in double digits, who cares how much money you've got? Do you know, like if City were still scratching 16th place, they wouldn't get Haaland. no matter if his dad played for them or not. You know, like who cares if your dad played for Man City? They're 16th. It doesn't help. But you have a structure, you have something in place that entices players. You can buy whoever you like. So the fact that Gnabry has won Champions Leagues, he's seen the world. You know, he's left this club for whatever reason that it turned out to be, and he's had his journey. The fact that he's like, I still love that club. I wouldn't mind going back to Arsenal. That just shows we have more than the first 11 that is drawing in these players. Because who in our first 11 really and truly, like, and this is as an Arsenal lover, not even as an Arsenal fan, other than Ødegaard and Saka in our first 11, even Partey, like I can't quite see I want to be part of that squad player in the club. Yeah. You know, but Arteta, he's a real workhorse. You know, he's composed. He has a lot of faith in that youth to experience bracket. I've also seen, all the footballers are mates really. So it's like, I've also spoken to a couple of my mates and they're saying every training session, he has a full debrief and he lets us know like what's happening each weekend. And, you know, the ice bath is like 6 foot long, so I can actually really lie down. You know, there's like, you know, they've just got a new training facility and a new medical facility and all of these things. And that you can then start to go, well, yeah, I do want to be part of that club. I might take a bit of a wage cut or, you know, but I want to be part of that setup. And this is something that I think we have over Tottenham. And this is a big moment. So Tottenham have I don't know about beautiful. I haven't really seen it, but Tottenham have this brand spanking new stadium. And it looks intense. It looks amazing. I can only imagine what it's like inside, but there's still, like, if it wasn't for Son, because Harry Kane to me is still just the best penalty taker in the world. If it wasn't for Son, do you know what I mean? And like Højbjerg, and like, I don't really know. I think it's just, for me, Son and Højbjerg, and that Bentancur, he looks pretty decent. Like, again, we don't know what they've got behind closed doors, you know, like, but they've got Perisic again on a free. He could have gone wherever he wanted. He's still a world-known player, but he went to Tottenham. So that's one thing, like you said, I think that is one thing that is very fun, like very key and fundamental in the footballing journey right now, is having more than just what's on the pitch. You know, Basuma, he was sort of, you could almost guarantee that we was going to buy him. You know, like every time we played them, everyone was hugging him. You know, everyone wanted his shirt. He looked like he was smiling more after the game than he was during the game. You know, and I think there's definitely something at Arsenal, and there's that saying that's always been said. You know, when Arsenal knocks, it's a different knock. So who knows? There is something that is coming, but people, just like you said, in both times you've spoken, they just really have to be patient. I can't stress it enough. You have to be patient. Like, you're never going to get a Wenger again. But guess what? We've got Arteta now. And he's doing his best. You know, you're never going to get an on. But,
in a very
you know,
difficult environment. So it's like a heavyweight boxer going up against three of the greatest heavyweights ever. So you've got Klopp, Pep, and Conte in there, and Arteta's, you could say, on paper punching above his weight, but in reality, I feel like he's in the right fight. He's in the right class category. Yeah,
he's young. He's young. I keep saying it, but he loves the club he's at. Who better to learn from? Who better to learn from? You're in the same basket as Klopp, Pep, and Conte. I mean, if me and you became managers today, we could hope that we was, you know, in the same conversation as those three managers, and yet he's there in his first 2 seasons of being a manager.
Man, I'm actually super excited, but also very interested in how this is going to go next season. I just feel like people have sort of not written Arsenal off because of what happened at the end of the season, but I feel like they've drawn a conclusion based on a little bit of a stereotype about Arsenal. So that is Arsenal choke, Arsenal kind of bottle it and haven't got the stomach when it gets difficult. And I kind of feel people have taken that conclusion and almost thought, Tottenham are going to overtake Arsenal. Newcastle snapping at their heels. Europa League football next year, it's going to be difficult. They're making slow progress in the transfer market. And all of a sudden, people are forgetting about Arsenal again, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think we can go in there under the radar and actually hopefully start fast. And man, next season, I do think it's gonna be okay. So Ryan, just before we wrap it up, final thoughts, final sort of feelings going into this new season. How would you like to close the chat?
Don't write them off. You know, like, one, everybody loves an underdog. Look at Leicester. You know, the underdogs, and then they won the league. Everyone loves a good underdog. Don't write them off. 2, just enjoy the ride, man. Like, I think sometimes as fans we forget that there's almost nothing that we can actually do. You know, we just have to watch and love our team. You know, it's the same as fans that are supporting Leyton Orient. They're not getting upset that they're not in the Champions League. They just love their club. So why should we really be any different? Love your club. That is it. That just love your club. And, you know, I just think it's important to just be patient. Just be patient, because, you know, like, we're building a process here. City did it, and now look where City are. Yes, they had a big cash injection, but we're not broke either. You know, like, they did their thing. They took their time. They got the right manager in, that got the right players in, and then they are where they are now. We took our time. We're taking our time. Sorry, because we're not there yet. So we're taking our time. We've got. I personally feel, and it sounds like you do too, like, we've got the right manager in. We're starting to get the right players in, mindset and temperament wise. So, you know, like, take your time. Our manager that was managing us now has learnt from the guy that is currently destroying the league. So take your time, take the process, take every loss as, okay, that happened. Like, what's happening next? And just enjoy it, man. Like, you know, I feel sometimes it is stressful being an Arsenal fan. Of course it is. But if it was easy every week, would we be able to have these type of conversations? Would we, you know, like, would we look deeper into certain players that are coming to the club? You know, it's a process. Love it, man. Just love it. You know, what else could you do but love it?
100%, Ryan. Yeah, I think we're on the same page with this. And yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all goes. But yeah, Ryan, I've loved your company as always. It was a fantastic conversation. Really, really enjoyed that. Getting your views on the Arsenal and that refreshing perspective. So thank you very much for coming on. And we're going to have to do this more often.
Thank you for having me, man. I honestly, when you messaged me and saying that you wanted me to do another one, I was excited. I was just like, I couldn't wait for my rota to come out so I could give you a day that I was free. Because honestly, it's fun to talk. It's fun to talk about the club that we love. Do you know what I mean? You have so many negative conversations. It's nice to have, like, a real neutral love for a club conversation. And it's always a pleasure to see you, man. It's been way too long. When you're next in the UK, you have to let me know, man. Honestly.
1000%, mate. I couldn't agree more. Like, always fantastic to reconnect. And when I'm back in London, we'll definitely catch up.
Do it.
And yeah, I want to keep these videos coming, or these chats, reflections on Arsenal, a little bit more regular between the two of us through the season, just to see how we follow the process and what our observations are. Because I love, like you said, I love supporting the Gunners. They're a great club, and I love what they stand for. I love the the vibe among the fans. I've always felt there's a real love and a connection with the Arsenal fans. So it's great to be part of that journey with you, mate. And yeah. Thanks as always, brother. And yeah, we'll be back.
Definitely, man. I can't wait. See you soon.
See you soon, guys. And guys, thanks for tuning in. Peace, everyone.